It's not that easy being agnostic. When you look around and you almost wish you were something a little more interesting, and you were a little less indifferent about everything, and you're... Okay, I'll stop singing like Kermit the Frog. Hey guys, this is M-Pig, and you know what's really weird is being in the middle on something. Completely in the middle, not to one side or the other. And it seems like to me, as far as my social life is concerned, people fall into one of three camps. You're either atheist, agnostic, or Christian. And I so happen to be agnostic because honestly, I don't know how the world works. I can only assume so much with my little mortal brain, and that's sort of the standpoint that I stand by all the time, is that unless I can completely grasp something, I'm not going to jump onto a bandwagon just because a lot of other people say that it's going to change your life. Because honestly, lots of things you can say that about. I could say Evangelion changed my life, and that's certainly not a religion, and is certainly not for everybody. Yes, I'm not going to relate religion to anime right now, but actually Evangelion borrows a lot from pseudo sort of Christian mythology, so... Anyways, I digress. Most of my friends that I knew, like back when, a couple of years ago, were all agnostic, and for the most part we were, you know, agnostic. But now I'm entering a world that seems to be populated with people who are Christian. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But it's just kind of, it's strange. It's a world that I haven't been thrown into yet. And you go around on campus and you start meeting people and you start having nice conversations. And it's like you start talking to them and they're Christian and they follow very Christian sort of conservative beliefs. And I sort of cock my head and I'm like, what? It's so strange to me, just talking to somebody that, from a certain perspective, and this is just my horrible mind working here, and I know this isn't the case. I know this isn't the case for some people, or maybe it is. Maybe I'm being too soft here, but it's sort of strange talking to somebody who, apparently, since they are Christian, they believe that they have been saved. And from that viewpoint, obviously, they can look at me and go, oh, he is yet to be saved. Maybe we should, convert him over. None of my friends, by the way, have ever tried to convert me. At least not yet. And I doubt that they ever will. But it's sort of a kind of weird sort of thing, because I have a real problem with the heaven and hell concept in general, which is basically that if you're a good little Christian, you get to go to hell. While if you were a good man, and you didn't so happen to be Christian, down into the inferno you go. And I know that there's probably some subsects of Christianity which don't necessarily follow that code quite so strictly, and lots of people tend to take their religion and twist it around to their own benefit so that it fits them as a person, rather than just being, the same as the entire organized sect. But I found that I back myself into corners sometimes. It's sort of strange. It's hard when someone is asking you about your religious beliefs and you're like, oh, I'm agnostic. And they're sort of like, oh, you're one of them. It's happened once where it was sort of awkward because I guess they sort of just assumed that I had like some kind of religious tie. And I'm like, nope, none at all. Well, at least I'm not Mormon. Oh, no offense. No offense to the Mormons out there. I don't mean to make fun of you. I find your beliefs hilarious. It's either they drop it right there, after they figure out that you're agnostic, or the conversation keeps getting more and more awkward and you start talking about your spiritual beliefs and what you personally believe. Sometimes this is kind of life-affirming when you find the right partner to talk about this with and you're like, yeah, it's interesting to hear people's different perspectives on things, different viewpoints of life. Because honestly, I just sort of follow life around like the way I can. I'm sort of like, the way life works is that I make the most out of it based off of my particular actions. And sometimes good things are going to happen and sometimes bad things are going to happen, based off of the sort of choices that I make and the choices that the people around me make. I can make an impact based off of my being alone, and I prefer to keep it that way rather than have there be some sort of spiritual being in the center cleansing me of something. Because honestly, I never felt as if, the bad things that I've done, they're a part of me. And rather than saying, oh, I wish I was free of this, and then being saved from it, I prefer to more be accepting of it, saying, all right, I was a jerk here, and I did something wrong here, and I sinned here, whatever your concept of sin is, but I am at terms with self. I have self-peace. Speaking of which, my girlfriend is actually Christian, but we seem to be working it out just fine. I have nothing against religion in general, though I have done a rant or two in the past, but that was more along the lines of the hypocrisy of some religious people rather than it actually being about the religion itself. Except for that time that I went through the book of Genesis and was like, don't we find this funny? Does anybody have a logical answer to this? Does anybody have a logical answer to this? And that was not very nice of me, but what can I say? I was in a bitter place at that point in time, and it was sort of like I was just reading through Genesis going, oh my goodness, I do not understand this. I do not understand a lot of things. In general, it's a sort of strange thing, especially when half of your family, your own family, is religious, and the other half is almost completely agnostic. Or, as one of my family members so kindly said to my mother, you need to get over your hatred with God, even though my mother clearly doesn't believe that God even exists, and that's really a stupid statement, but I'm willing to forgive and forget that that occurred. One thing that always seems to happen is that my dad and my brother, okay, my brother is a really awesome priest. He really is. He gives sermons and everything. He's really quite good at it, and I'm really proud of him because you watch the videos of him, and it's like, oh my God, he really... Oh, excuse me, I just said his name in vain while talking about him, but, oh my goodness, he is good at what he does. I mean, it's one of those sorts of things where I imagine doing sermons. I would love doing sermons, like, if I had the voice for it, but obviously I don't, and it's one of those sorts of things where obviously that would be really hypocritical of me to say, oh, I'm agnostic, whatever. Let me preach about the good word of the Lord. I prophesy, my children, I prophesy. No, that would be completely wrong of me. But I have the utmost of respect for him as an individual, and so it doesn't matter. And plus, the way that he views his religion and the way he follows his beliefs, I believe that he really does believe that there was a Christ who died for his sins. And so more power to him, man. Maybe when this whole thing is over, I will end up looking back on the whole thing going, boy, do I wish I had turned in my hand for a new set of cards as I'm burning in giant pillars of flame, and there's little demon things dancing around me going, na 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 na, and I'm just sitting there going, why didn't I go to church? But I doubt it. For the sake of clarifying, all of my friends who are Christians have never once tried to convert me, so I really have no right to complain. It's just that every so often you can manage to feel more like a fourth wheel or third wheel to a group having a religious discussion when you're kind of sitting there on the sidelines, the complete agnostic, hopefully not bringing down their conversation and making the rest of them feel like crap, which I've done a couple of times. I've gotten into it, like, I haven't recently, but 3 years ago, back when I was in my kind of rebellious late teens phase, because I'm 19 now, and about 3 years ago, I think I was like 16. I can do math, see? 19 minus 3 equals 16. But when I was like 16 and 15, I was more confrontative about it than I am now. Now I just kind of let it slip. Because really, again, people will believe what they want to believe. And, you know, maybe they're right. Alright, this was MPig, and I am signing out. It's so hard being agnostic sometimes.